thought they were fantastic. That's my thoughts and your thoughts. I asked you what it was a kind of a broken down version of an exam question that I'll ask my second years this year. As a leader of a scheme, what would you constitute as valuable to your scheme? And they've got to write, you know, if I was a leader of a scheme, this would be valuable, this would be valuable, this representation would be valuable. And most of the ones I get, if you're coming to that exam in summer and you write a little bit more about what you wrote, you'd pass that exam with flying colours. You know, with a few references in there and examples and everything else. It was really refreshing to see. Whether we do it or not is another thing. Whether you want to do it or not is hopefully you will do by the end of today. But here's one. I'm not going to name names because I've not put them down. If I had put them up there, I would have kind of singled people out. What would you constitute as success in your scheme? Personally, word of mouth counts to me more than any written report or charter mark that the club may achieve. I would always go off public opinion. However, as an organiser, I would measure the club's achievement by achieving the standards. You can understand my dilemma. I think that's a really good example of what you want as a leader of a scheme and what your funders want, who are giving you the money for your scheme, obviously. And I think an evaluation needs to take into account both. So first of all, hitting the nail right in the head there, you can't just satisfy your funders. They're one stakeholder. You're a stakeholder, your participants are a stakeholder. This one was, I think they talked earlier about numbers and quantifiable things, which I didn't want you to go in about, because we're all aware of those things, how many people arrive in, ticking your boxes. We've said that 3 times already. But that doesn't help change your scheme. I always use the fact that you could have a summer coaching scheme for football and 300 people could turn up. You might have only put your targets 200, and you think that's successful. And then all of a sudden, when it's done and you've satisfied that, you get people complaining about certain coaches or about certain safety issues. So you might have had 200 people, it doesn't tell you whether it's any good or not. Okay? Was it worth it? I know it was yours, wasn't it? Helen's already identified that. Absolutely. Can it be worth it in terms of value for money? Is it worth it to the people who come on your scheme? All the hard graft that you did trying to set it up, has it made a difference? So they're all different levels of worth. And you did actually go in and start talking about the different levels of worth in your other thing. In fact, if I'd put all yours on, we'd have spent next time I put it on there. Well, I thought that was great. I thought the key theme, I only needed to pick out that. That was a central thing. A really good indicator would be when participants come involved in the cascading skills, which is, was that one you guys know? I can't remember which one it was. So this is what we talked about this morning in terms of sport's one thing, but if they gain other skills from that, like environmental awareness, like leadership, all the other things that the educational side of sport can achieve, and that puts them into a job. Maybe in the future, people who've got jobs, who have an income, who have some kind of awarded educational status, are less likely to be involved in crime, are less likely to be at the GP every 5 minutes, and the indirect effect is that kind of community regeneration through the fact that sport's been a vehicle to educate them. Because you're working with people, I'm sure you're working with people, I'm sure there's other people working with people where a traditional curriculum doesn't work for